Now, for the past 3 years, the BioAfrica Convention seeks to have reflective and solution-driven dialogues. That's in an attempt to advance Africa's biotechnology solutions. This year, the convention will be hosted digitally under the theme Advancing Africa's Biomanufacturing Value Chains Through Innovation. It's focusing specifically on the continent's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, the segmented convention will focus on Africa's response to the pandemic. Some of the dialogues to be expected at the convention are 2021 Women's Program, the Rising Stars, Startup Index, and several others. I'm now joined by one of the speakers at the convention who will present under the Diagnostic and Tech Innovation leg of the convention. This is the founding CEO of CapeBio Technologies. The company has recently developed a SAHPRA tested and approved PCR testing kit for COVID-19 detection. Daniel Ndima is with me in studio to tell us more about this presentation at the convention and what it will be focusing on. Thank you so much for joining me in studio. Welcome to the show, Daniel.
Thank you, Wisha. Thank you for welcoming me.
Absolute pleasure. Let's start with the convention itself, BioAfrica Conference. What's the background on that? What is it about?
So you have the industry bodies that organize events for the industry like our biotechnology. So we have Bio Convention, which is international, which then aggregates all the stakeholders international, all the big players. So BioAfrica Convention is the continental one that looks at African capabilities and stakeholders so that we are able to drive innovation in the industry for the benefit of the continent.
And now this year's convention is, of course, I mean, anyone could have guessed that COVID-19 is the central theme, if I can put it that way. Talk to me about the importance of that and obviously Africa leading the charge in COVID-19 on the continent.
Yeah, Africa, I think, has been sort of a destination for using products that are coming out of, Europe and US. So we haven't been really inventing our own solutions. So when we have a challenge like COVID-19, I think you saw in the beginning of the pandemic that all rich countries were sort of taking all the resources that have to do with the response to the pandemic. So Africa has to be at the back of the queue. Even with the vaccine, it's still the same thing. And I think even with other solutions like therapeutics that will be developed later on, we'll still be behind. So this convention is about how do we come together and actually and look at the value chains that each one plays and actually create something that can put Africa, on the map in terms of its ability to respond not only to this pandemic, even to future pandemics, because we have been importing all the solutions that has to do with the response to the pandemic. But now it's all about, how do we connect our value chains and make sure that we are able to respond sufficiently to the problems that are prone to Africa.
And CapeBio is essentially doing that. You are going to be speaking about this PCR test that you have developed, without giving too much away, of course, but can you just give us a little bit of an insight into that?
So the PCR test kits are gold standards, if you like. They are used globally for detecting pathogens, but they're also used for, detecting other what you call disease markers. So they accurately tell whether you have a virus or not. So it's through detection of the genetic material of the virus. So if it's in your body, the PCR will be able to detect it, that indeed it is in your body. So we developed this platform working together with our partners, the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research. And we were supported by Department of Science Innovation, TIA, South African Medical Research Council, and obviously our investors, E-Squared Investments, in order to respond. And we've been doing this project for quite a while, and we want to make sure that out of this project we're able to even target other diseases that use the same platform for diagnostics.
And why is it so important that it is a local company that is producing this locally?
I think if you look at the challenges that has to do with importation, right? When there are lockdowns around the world, we tend to struggle because at some stage we had testing backlog. And what that does is that it put pressure on our health system. It also it doesn't allow us to be able to respond sufficiently. So when you have a local solution, you know, you don't rely on importation that much. You can then be able to test people. People can isolate. But this test kit is vital because, you know, whether you vaccinate or not, you know, there are reports out there that, you know, some people still test positive for COVID. So having a local solution will play a key role going forward. I think it's not only now, but even going forward, because this virus is going to be with us for quite some time. We're going to have to learn how to live with it, and we're going to have to test, you know, until we find some form of normality.
I mean, you know, when initially we started testing for COVID-19, a big factor was the expenses. Now, we've obviously government tried to come to the party as well and absorb a lot of that, but is this, should I say, cheaper? Does this make it a bit more accessible for everyone in the country to test?
I think it should with time. And if you look at how other developed countries do, everyone has access to testing, so it's not restricted. So if you're willing to test, you go and test, and it's going to help to ensure that even the rural communities are able to test, because a lot of testing you see mostly in the urban areas, and we neglect that even the most you know, vulnerable society, you know, needs to be tested, so that, you know, you can manage the pandemic, identify clusters where there is the concentration of this virus, and you are able to manage, you know, accordingly. So in terms of pricing, you know, being a local product, you can imagine when you import something from overseas, you pay, you know, labor that side, you pay their taxes, you pay transportation to South Africa. When you get to South Africa, you still have the people that are in the value chain that still have to add their markups, and they are also employed people, you know, so it makes the solution more expensive. A solution like this that is important in terms of saving lives, it has to be affordable, and that is why we developed it, and we believe that where, you know, the price that comes with our product is affordable for the market. It's actually fair for the market, given that it is a global standard product.
Now, talk to me about your, and we touched on it briefly, about your address, or you know, when you the speech, if I can call it that you'll be giving a little bit later on at Bio Africa at the conference. What is the intended purpose of that?
I think it's mostly about you know, how, you know, a solution like ours play a key role in industrialization, because this is a platform, is not just a test kit. A test kit comes from the platform. So out of this platform, we are able to make many other diagnostic kits. So what that does is that you know, it now brings other role players in the value chain. We will start seeing, you know, emergence of other companies that plug into the value chain that we're opening. So this is in a sign, because even in our own value chain, there are aspects where we rely on international players. So we would appreciate when we have, you know, other players coming through and assisting us, so that we share the response and the responsibilities.
Thank you so much for your time. It's an absolutely important initiative there. That was the CEO of CapeBio Technologies. He's also a speaker at the Bio Africa Digital Convention 2021 event. Daniel Ndima joining us in the studio. Now, this interview was brought to you by Bio Africa Digital Convention 2021.